Hi everyone, welcome back to part 3 of our Morgana project. So up until now, we've made a cover and we've had a look at page 1 and how to cover our front with the acetate front. So this is one we're making in this series. This is the finished one. So let's have a look at what we're going to do this time. And you can see the lovely glossy accents there. So let's open it up to page 2 and 3. So in the instructions, you see the photos before we add the extras, just so you can see all the elements. But in the kit, you get access to this PDF, or you can join my Facebook group, Paper Crafting with Paul, link in description below, and you can download it from the file section, or you can contact Cool Katz Crafts or join their Facebook page as well, which will be in the description below as well. So you get your hands on this. So it's got the cutting list and the instructions, which we're going to follow now. So let's put our well-groomed one away to the side. And we're going to bring in our cardstock. And this time, the pages go quite well across. So what I've done is you're going to need 3 sheets, and in the 8x8 graphic 45 you do get 3 sheets of each. So I've looked at something which I like the front and back of, because you're going to see quite a bit of both of them. So I've gone for the Born to be a Mermaid one, and I'm going to need some little elements, so I'm going to add some of the journal cards as well. Now you do get 3 sheets of the journal cards, and I know I'm not going to use 3 of them. So what I've also done is there'll be separate videos for this, the little finishing touches, but this is a little magnet closure. So you just open it up, you put your photo in there and you close it. So I've used some scrap from page 1 for that one, but also I've made some paper clips using one of these, just using the mermaid images. So you can see that's come from there. And I didn't mind cutting into this so much because I've got 3 sheets of this, and I'll be able to use all the scraps to make my closures and things like that. So go. So let's start off with page 2. So page 2 is the back of this one, and page 3, and we'll put the rest of the album aside, and bring in our trimmer. So in the instructions, I said to you on page 1 that P stands for pocket, F stands for flap, OT stands for on top, and rotate means turn it 180 degrees. So pocket 2, because pocket 1 was on page 1, so pocket 2, I need to cut it at 8 3/4 by 6 1/2. And let's have a look. We also then need a flap, which is 2 3/4, which we can get out of this strip. So we're only using 1 sheet here. So we need to save that piece, by 7 3/4, because it's the height of our page. 7 3/4. So let's put our trimmer to the side. So we're just going to do page 2 first. We'll do page 3 afterwards. So I've got my scoreboard and my scoring tool. And now I'm going to go back to my instructions, and it says, with the 8 3/4 on top, score at half. Rotate, and half again. And then with a 6 1/2 on top, at 1/2 inch. And then flap 1 with a 2 3/4 on top, at 1/2 inch. Now, if you could have seen in the album or in this photo, I've actually curved mine. So the only thing, you can make this using just your basic supplies and a corner rounder. So I'm using the large corner for this one. So when I come to my paper, I will use the medium one. There we go. So let's put that aside. So I've got my 3 score lines. I'm going to place tape in between those 1/2 inch strips. There we go. Oh, and down the flap as well. Again, inside that 1/2 inch. I'm going to bring in my scissors, and what we need to do now is trim away our corner here. And the way we do it is we cut towards that cross, where the 2 score lines cross, bend my scissors slightly and cut off. So it's mitered it off, going through that cross, but at a little bit of a sharper angle, you can see there. So when we fold them back, they won't overlap and we won't have that bulk. So again, up to the cross, take my scissors and cut. And we can do the same for here. We can just miter off in that 1/2 inch up to that score line, and that'll just reduce bulk in the corner. There we go. And then just fold back and burnish. So you want to do some nice hard burnishes here because you do want your flap to be flat. So I'm just working it and working it with my Teflon tool. And we're doing the same with the pocket. We're going to fold everything backwards, and then the same from the other side, just to try and get it a little bit flatter. So that is the 2 pieces for page 2. Let's have a look. I put page 2, here we are. I couldn't find page 2. So with page 2, I've got my markings, just as I showed you in the last video, saying this way up so that I don't have it upside down. And the opening is going to be on the left hand side, so we can slide things in here. Nothing stopping you, because it's a square, you can have it this way. I wouldn't have it this way, because it opens up into the hinge and can be a little bit awkward with a page there. And I wouldn't have it that way because everything would just be falling out. I suppose you could, because you're going to close this anyway. So yeah, off to the right, off to the left is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to expose this tape, and I want it on the side, but I am going to turn it just so I can look at these 2 corners and line them up. And what you find sometimes maybe is if you're putting large things in here, it catches on here. So what you can do is take some of your black construction tape and tape it over that as well. Not so much of an issue with these big pockets. So I'm just going to expose some tape, get it nice and flat, smoothing it down, lining it up, because I can still move this because the glue tape is only exposed here. There we go. And again, this is the Cool Katz Sticky Paws. Nice strong tape. And the same now with our flap. So we want the hinge side on the left hand side, but I'm going to just turn it round just to make it easier, lining up the 2 corners. There we go. And that is then page 2 finished. So let's move on to page 3. As I said, this is a great album for beginners. It'll teach you lots of the basics, but also if you're more advanced, you can then take these basic pages and add your own elements. So let's get on to page 2 is done. Page 3 has this nice big pocket again, which you can access from the side, but also a little pocket here. And I'll tell you why I chose these dimensions in a bit. So we're going to cut 2 pieces here, 8 3/4 by 4 3/4 and 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So let's just put our page aside for a second and bring back my trimmer. I don't know why I've got it on this side this time. Let's stick to what I had before. So 8 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then we got 3 3/4. Can I get out of this? No, and it's not going to come out of that either, but they'll come in useful for something else. So let's do the 3 3/4 first. 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So just the 2 pieces again. Let's bring back our scoreboard. So back to pocket 3. This is 8 3/4 on the top. We want to score it half, rotate it, and half again. Then with a 4 3/4, 4 3/4 on top at 1/2 inch. And this one, 5 1/4 on top. We're going to score it half, rotate and half. And then 3 3/4 on top at 1/2 inch. So it's just 2 pockets, just different sizes. And what you'll find is, at the end, this smaller pocket will end up being 4 1/4 inches, which means you can put your 6x4 photos straight in. And just as we did on page 2 with that pocket, we're just going to tape these 3 1/2 inch pieces. And the same on this one. And again, same mitre to the corner, angle, so to the corner and angle. And the same with the larger one. To the cross and angle, to the cross and angle. Put that aside and bring back our Teflon tool. So I'm just doing it on the back and coming onto the front. And because I'm using the Cool Katz Teflon tool, it's not giving me any silver shiny marks like plastic ones do. Just one pocket. Then the second pocket. It's going to get them nice and sharp. So let's bring in page 3. So this is page 3 with the arrow pointing up, so I know it's the right way. And I'm going to place this one with the opening off to the right hand side this time, because if you've got some large photo mats, which I will be using, they can slide in this way. If I've got it this way, you've got the rest of the book over here to contend with. So I'm going to take off, so I'm going to turn it around so I can put it on the left hand side. And then take off, well, usually I expose a little bit at a time, but let's just go for it. Hold down the middle, and done. And then we've got the little pocket, so we're going to put that here. So as I said, you can fit your 6x4s straight in here. So we're going to do our little one. And again, you can put some tape over there if you want to use the black tape. And fold this up. Now the great thing about this piece as well is I've designed it so if you've got the 12x12 paper as well from this kit, you've actually got some 3x4 journal cards, which sort of look like that. They will then fit on here perfectly as well. So that could be an actual, so an added extra as well. So that was the reasoning behind the measurements for that pocket. And there we are. Page 2 and 3 already done. So now it's just a case of decorating. And as I said, I'm going to be using the Born to be a Mermaid, which has got the lovely scales on the back. And these 3 sheets is going to cover all this, and I'll have a little strip left over so I can do some extra embellishments with later on. So our pages are 7 3/4 by 7 3/4, which means I'm going to be cutting my paper down to 7.5 inches. So I'm just going to cut off the top. That's 7.5. And for the left hand side, I'm going to be cutting 7.5. Like so. And this sheet is going to have a pattern continuation into my flat bit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure my pocket. I think my pocket is 6 inches, which means I need to cut it at 5 3/4. So make sure it's upside down so you get the right size. Otherwise, it's going to be upside down. So 5 3/4, but I want a little bit less black space. So I'm just going to take it back just an extra 16th there. So I've actually made it 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 16ths, if you want to be precise. And that'll just help my pattern continuation. If you don't do that, it's not the end of the world if you just did it at 5 3/4. It just means you'll have a little bit more black line coming down horizontally. Oh, sorry, vertically. There we go. So mine's going to have a very thin black line. Yours will just have a little bit thicker here. There we go. So we can go there. And you could just stick that straight down there. But because this is a nice large area, I thought, let's add something extra. So originally I was thinking I could put one of the photo cards in, like so. And what you can do is take one of these and just glue a back to front capital L, and it just means you can tuck things behind. But what I'm going to do this time is, because this is Cool Katz project, I'll show you what else we could use. I'm just going to bring some of my dies here, and they have fallen out. But what I've got are some straight slots and some curved slots. And what these will do is cut a little pocket into my paper. And we can have it so the black shows through, or you can do an invisible one, which I'll show you now. So these straight ones I could do a little diagonal here, and it will cut out with a nice pierced edge, and you can tuck your cards. In fact, let me cut a photo card so we've got one ready for showing. There we go. So it would cut a slot, and you can then just slide that in behind the paper, and it would just stick in there. We could have a little half circle one. So then again, it would just tuck into there. But you could also have it like that, like a rainbow, like an arch. And let me turn it over this way. It would just tuck in like so. So I think actually the arch would look nice because it's a bit more of a wave sort of shape. But how big do I want to go? Do I want to go that sort of size? Or are we going to go big? Oh, so you could do it that way as well. And you can tuck things down. But I've got to bear in mind, I'm also going to have some closure. So do you know what? I'm going to go for the smaller one. But you'll see how this works later on. And you can then just pick which shape or which size suits you. But the technique is the same, whichever you're using, straights or the curves. So are we going to go... That's it. Will it fit in? It would if I just did it straight, but I think we're going to go for a little bit of shaping. So let's have it go in here. So I've just taped it down, send it through my die cutting machine. So I'm just using a Platinum 6 here, so it's just my small machine. Didn't need an A4 one. Here we go. So when we take this out, we've also got this fall away piece, which once you've glued this down, you can glue that back in space, and you've got this invisible pocket. So let's get this in place then. I'm just going to use some distress ink, the black soot around the edge. I'm going to take this photo card, and what we'll do is we'll be putting it in here. So I'm going to leave it in. So that's where it'll be coming through, which means I'll want to glue this piece down above it, but I don't want to add any glue anywhere near where that photo card is. Otherwise, you're closing and sealing your pocket. But everywhere else needs glue. There we go. So I can take it out. Just stick it down. I'm going to just do the glue there in place. And whilst that's just drying for a second, we'll attach the liner. This is just going to line the pocket, so I haven't bothered to ink that right hand side. And with this one now, I'm going to try and line it up with the other piece of paper. There we go. So we've got that now, a little extra tuck spot there for a photo card. And you can leave it and make it obvious. Or you can just take a tiny bit of glue, smear it so you don't want any excess. And what we can do now is, like a jigsaw, fit it back inside that gap. And just lift it up. We don't want that to stick. There we go. And there is some piercing along the edge, so you know there's something there. Oh, I've just tucked it out. I haven't left it dry yet. There we go. So we've got that there. So let's go off to the page 3. So I'm going to have the mermaids carrying on onto this long pocket. So I need to cut it at 7 3/4 again. Sorry, 7.5. 7.5 inches. Our pocket is 4 1/4, so I'm going to cut it at 4, which is just in half. Now, there's going to be no pattern continuation across this time, so I don't need to trim that down. It'll just be a bit of an extra liner. Oh, we do need to cut the top. So my pocket is 3 1/4. So I'm going to do 3 1/4 normally. So I go 3, but I'm going to add myself 3 and an extra 16th. There we go. As I said, you could use a 4x3 journal card. And then this is the liner for my pocket. And for this one then, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to have these nice colourful scales. And this is going to go inside my pocket, so I don't need to ink the left-hand side, just those 3 sides. There we go. And I think my neighbours have decided to put up their new fence this afternoon. So that's what the noise you can hear is. Actually, I'm going to do this one first. I always line the matten layer, the pocket first, and then I can adjust the other one up and down to match it. So remember, it's going to be quite even down these sides and the bottom, but a bit less there. And now when I bring my pocket liner, I'm going to be working on that match. There we go. And then I do like this scales paper, and it matches all the other papers because it's got every colour from the colour palette in it. So it's a great one if I got some offcuts for doing those extra embellishments. So let's then tuck this inside. And so let's just use my Teflon tool just to get it nice and flat. So that's all I'm going to do for now on page 3. We just got the flaps on the left hand side to do. So again, it's going to be 7.5 high, and it's 2 1/4 inch flap, so I'm going to go for 2 inches. So let me cut a 2 inch and a 2 inch, and cut them both at 7.5. And I'm going to use the scales. Now these are for the flaps. So when I did my cardstock, I used the 10mm or the large. So now I'm going to go down to the 7mm on my We Are Memory Keeper corner rounder. And on this one, make sure I'm going on the left-hand side. Because when the flaps open, they will need to be in opposite directions. So again, let's ink the edge of that so you can see the difference. Well, I don't know if it shows up in the video. I mean, it is an optional extra thing you can do, but I think it does give you that little more polished finish. Let's bring back our pages. So we've got one to go here, and you can see how by reducing we've got some nice even things. Now think about your closure before sticking your papers down. Now my closures I can add afterwards, but if you want a magnetic closure, and you need to make sure you stick them down before putting your papers down, so stick your magnets down before. So I thought they'd finished the sewing by then, but obviously not. And here we go. So for my closures this time, I've decided to stick with some swivel closures, but this time, rather than the arrowhead type shaped ones like we had on this one, I've decided to use the Cool Katz again swivel closures. They come in the same set, but these are the big oval ones. Now the reason I can add mine afterwards is I do have a series on just the closures, and this is my cheat swivel closure. So I've used the Cool Katz swivel die, folio circle dies to make a little circle. So I've got two black pieces back to back, stuck on a decorative one. You get both sizes in the die set. And then in my swivel set, I've chosen to use the oval. So I've cut two black ovals and a matching mat from paper, and then just pushed a brad through. So we're going to put some tape on the back of my brad closures, or my swivel closure, sorry. The brad closures are different. I have done a brad closure, and I'll be showing you that in a second, but I've done it in a different way to before. So I've got some double-sided tape just on the circle. I'm going to add some glue just for added strength. And I think what I'm going to do is bring it probably about 2.5 inches in. So I'm using the circle part, the base, and matching it at 2.5. So the circle is just coming up to touch the flap, which means when this comes back, it's completely free of that. But when I take it around, it'll be covering that. But I don't want to do it now because the glue hasn't dried. So this tape just keeps it in place for now, but it's a glue that will keep it in place, hopefully forever. So let's have a look. We want to bring it 2.5 down, isn't it? So 7 3/4, 6 3/4, 5 3/4, and 5 1/4. So again, I'm just matching that circle to it. So that's my swivel closures, and this has had a chance just to dry a little bit. It'll move to there to lock it in place, and then you just swivel it around and it opens. On this page, we've got a nice big open space here. So we've got room for our large photo mats to go in there. But it's quite nice to use the top space as well. So what I've done is used brad flaps and said I'll show you how to do these in a separate video, in the finishing touches and things. And what I've done is attached a magnet behind this paper, a magnet on the back. And I said these are the brad closures, but I've just cut off the brad closure part and used it as a hinge. So then this lifts up. You can attach your photo card. Let's have another one then, shall we? We'll use one of the small ones this time. So you could use some decorative paper on the inside as well, but most of the time it's going to be shut like that. So the magnet is just keeping a little photo or journal card. You could even just have the writing on the back and put it in there to tell us what's in here. But as I said, this is wide enough for a 4, so this is 4 inches across, a 6x4 photo. Just put it in portrait mode. And you've got room here to put some extra details, so you could cut out one of these. I think on my well-groomed one, which I've put down somewhere, here we are, I did mat one of the little journal cards. I put it there. Enchanted Forest, I just left it plain, but I turned one of the journal cards into an actual card. And you can see I used the shield brad flap here to make my magnetic closure. And the arrowhead swivel dies. So exactly the same technique, just with a different shape. And in my things, I haven't done anything, but I've done a little photo envelope, which goes in there, and a little paper clip. So this is the Cool Katz clip. So it is actually made from cardstock. So it'll match your project perfectly. So you can add that. In fact, I've made some of those Cool Katz clips. So we could tuck that on there as well, just for decoration. It can hold a little journal card as well, or it can just be a little bit of decoration, up to you. So that then is the end of page 2 and 3. So by the time we do the next video, we'll be over halfway, because we're going to do page 4 and 5 next. So let's have a look at what we've got so far. So we've got our cover, and you'll notice I have added a piece onto the spine. I've also used the embellishment dies from Cool Katz as well. So it's a little book plate one, and use the make splash, so I can use that on the spine as well. We've got our make a splash mermaids there, and then page 2 and page 3. So 4 and 5 will be up next. So if you've been following these videos, hope you've been enjoying them, and make sure to give me a thumbs up if you have. And hit that subscribe button as well, and it'll notify you when the next video is up for you to watch. So thanks for watching, and head to the shop, head to the Facebook groups in the meantime, whilst you wait for the next video. So thanks for watching. See you all again soon.